champ now.
Yes, I didn't say. What are you looking so sad about, champ?
I'm surprised at you. I mean, I'm really insulted. I mean, that's not right what you just said.
What do you mean? What I just said?
I mean, I'm get a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talk. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talk about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, Clay, one time during my career, I went on a Bomber 1 tour.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
Well, you've been on the tour.
What's happening, my people? It's Cass Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. Now, as usual, before we get started, let me give a shout out to the JBT community. It's just boxing talk. We're a group of people who just love to talk boxing. And we're always looking for others to join us. And you don't have to be a content creator. The only requirement is you just have to love to talk boxing. That's all. Miss Cass, Mike Mazik, Ray Patterson. Salute to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cass Sports, the Box Storian. Today, boxing in the States, South Dakota. And you know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Box Storian, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. How's everyone today? This is the Thursday afternoon edition of Cass Sports, the Box Storian. Welcome to everybody. The Boxing in the States series continues today. we're going to do a little talk about boxing in South Dakota. It's not going to be that long of a one. South Dakota doesn't have a big boxing history. Got a couple boxers from South Dakota, some other events that occurred in the state concerning boxing. And then we got a couple of Plan B and Plan C's for today. We'll get into that later. We're going to talk about Floyd. Is he Mr. TBE? I don't think so. We're going to talk about some boxers that probably could have beaten Floyd had they been in the same era, right? And we're going to talk about Canelo and Benavidez. I'm one of the people that still think we're going to get that fight. Okay? I think Canelo's saving that for last. And I'm also one of the people that think Canelo can beat the Mexican monster. And then we're going to talk about Bivol and Beterbiev. So got a lot planned for today. But first, for the highlights of boxing history, we did the men's pound for pound the other day. So today we're going to do the women's pound for pound list. Top 10 women pound for pound currently as of March 2025. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Okay? Only fair. I mean, women's boxing is as popular as it's ever been. 5 years ago, I probably couldn't name 10 women boxers. Name like 30 or 40 right there off the top of my head. So yeah, we're gonna look at the women's pound for pound rankings today to start the show off. Okay, so let's get into that. And we're gonna get to South Dakota and a few other things. Okay. So let's go with today's show. We're gonna go from 1 through 10. Okay. Couple of great cards this weekend too. We got Michaela Mayer and Sandy Ryan, and then we got a lot of top ranked youngsters on that card. Emiliano Vargas, Shushu is back in action. Tiger Johnson, Troy Isley, yeah, great card. And then we got the one from Mexico with William Zepeda and Tevin Farmer. Tevin already needs a knockout. He's not getting no decision down there. Even if he gets a decision, he's not getting it. Okay. They robbed him last time, so down there in Mexico, Tevin better go for the knockout. Okay. Top 10 women pound for pound. Number 1, Clarissa Shields. Okay. Now she's currently undisputed heavyweight champion. Right, it's the third. She's the only one with 3 undisputed in 3 weight divisions in the 4-belt era. Let's talk about her. Shields is a 5-division world champion and the only boxer, male or female, to have held undisputed titles in 3 different weight divisions in the 4-belt era. She won undisputed gold at middleweight in 2019. Where there were only 37 active participants in the world at super welterweight in 2021, which has 63 registered boxers, and most recently at heavyweight, which is home to just 18 women's fighters. Okay. Now, with 118 fighters competing in the 3 divisions she's won undisputed in, it's understandable why the 2-time Olympic. Wait a minute, there I go again. Bear with me for a minute. Hitting buttons again. Gotta get back to where I was at. My bad. Oh my. I suppose I had this right hand in my pocket. Okay. This thing is very sensitive. But we're back. Okay. Now, with 118 fighters competing in the 3 divisions she's won undisputed in, it's understandable why the 2-time Olympic champion has struggled to find big-name dance partners. Regardless, she has beaten every contender put in front of her. And that's all that anyone can ask of any boxer, right? Beat who's put in front of you. Shields was suspended from boxing last week by the Michigan Athletic Commission after testing positive for marijuana in an oral fluid sample taken following her unanimous decision win over Danielle Perkins to become a three-weight undisputed world champion, though Shields has professed her innocence. Okay. Coming in at number 2, women's pound for pound, Katie Taylor. That's KT on the right there. That was her, Jarrell Cameron 2. It was 2023, right? Yeah, that's Katie on the right. Taylor has by far the best resume in women's boxing, with wins over Amanda Serrano twice, Delphine Persoon, and Chantel Cameron. The Irish woman is nearing the end of her pro career and just has 1 or 2 fights left, which many selfishly hope will be trilogies against Serrano and Cameron in 2025. I'm one of them. The negotiations are ongoing for a Taylor versus Serrano trilogy. Eddie Hearn told Uncrowned earlier this month, right? So that's good news. Negotiations for a third fight between Katie and Amanda is going on. Eddie Hearn told in an interview with Uncrowned last month. That's what he said. So yeah, Eddie would know. Ranked number 3, women's pound for pound, of course, Amanda Serrano. Her and Katie 2 or 3, you can switch those. Either one can be 2, and either one can be 3. But ranked number 3 is Amanda. Okay. Now, Puerto Rico's Serrano was left disappointed again not to get the nod in her rematch with Taylor in November. Despite being a 7-division champion, Serrano has fallen short in her 2 biggest challenges against Taylor, but could have a chance to put it right in what would be a highly anticipated trilogy fight in the spring of 2025. That's how Eddie Hearn is talking about a trilogy. Soon. We're in spring now, aren't we? Well, not quite, almost. I think the spring start this week. Well, we're close. But yeah, they're talking about a Serrano-Taylor trilogy soon. Number 4, Chantel Cameron. There's Chantel. Should the Taylor vs. Serrano trilogy not materialize, the WBC made it clear that Cameron will be next in line for Taylor's WBC championship. Cameron and Taylor split 1 win apiece with their 2 fights in Ireland in 2023. Cameron worked her way back to another shot at the championship, winning 2 fights in 2024 after losing her belt to Taylor in their November 2023 rematch, though her next move currently remains in limbo as she awaits for news on the third fight between Taylor and Serrano. Okay. Number 5, the youngster, Gabriela Fundora. No, you're not seeing double vision. She's up there twice. Gabriela Fundora, number 5. Undisputed flyweight champion. Now, Fundora impressively stopped Gabriela Alliance to unify the flyweight division in November 2024 in Las Vegas. At just 22 years old, she is the youngest undisputed champion of the 4-belt era in history, and she could very well be the face of women's boxing in the years to come. Her or Sky Nicholson. I look at one of them two, but Sky is up a little bit higher in weight to fight Fundora, but they could be the faces of the sport in the future after the Groot and Katie Taylor and Amanda get out the way. Yeah, Gabriella will definitely be one of the faces. Maybe the face. Number 6, Natasha Jonas. This is the women's top 10 pound for pound. Since we did the men the other day, it's only fair to do the women. Number 6, Natasha Jonas. Now, Jonas had a stellar 2024 campaign, edging Michaela Mayer in a Fight of the Year contender, and then winning a convincing decision over Ivana Habazin to unify 2 welterweight straps. Okay? And yeah, she had a great 2024. Natasha Jonas did. Number 7, Alicia Baumgartner. No, I ain't gonna show no cheeks or nothing. It's Alicia Baumgartner. Miss Cass is on the other end. Okay, Alicia Baumgartner. Undisputed super bantamweight champion. Baumgartner announced herself to the pugilist community when she knocked out Terry Harper on her feet to win the WBC super featherweight title in November 2021. Baumgartner eventually became the undisputed champion at 130 pounds, beating Michaela Mayer, but her career was halted for some time after failing an anti-doping test in the lead-up to her title defense against Christina Leonardo. Now, the American has boxed once since, against Delphine Persoon in a fight that was declared a no contest. The WBC has already ordered an immediate rematch between Baumgartner and Persoon. Number 8, couple more. Michaela Mayer. Coming in at number 8, Michaela Mayer. Okay. That's Michaela on the left there. WBO welterweight champion. She got a fight tomorrow against Sandy Ryan. Okay. Great card. Mayer has been on the wrong end of 2 disputed decisions. In 2022, she was considered unlucky not to get her hand raised after 10 brilliant rounds with Baumgartner. And earlier this year, she came away second best again in the eyes of the judges against Natasha Jonas. Now, the rub of the green finally favored Mayer in September, though, when she edged Sandy Ryan to win the WBO welterweight title. Mayer versus Ryan alongside Taylor versus Serrano, too, was the front runner for the women's fights of the year in 2024. Mayer and Ryan were set to rematch in March 29th, right? And that's Saturday, okay? At number 9, Savannah Marshall. Savannah Marshall, number 9. Marshall was the biggest threat to Shields' dominance at the higher weight classes. She had power that was rarely seen in women's boxing. But when the two finally collided, Shields displayed her greatness, dominating the first half of the fight. Marshall managed to tighten things up over the final 5 rounds, but she still came up short. Marshall rebounded to win the undisputed super middleweight titles and has since transitioned to MMA, chasing a rematch with Shields in the PFL. Marshall was supposed to return to boxing on the Jonas vs. Price undercard, but a dispute with her promoter, Boxer, scuppered those plans. And finally, at number 10, Dina Thorslund. Number 10, women's pound for pound, Dina Thorslund. Thorslund has secured world titles in 2 weight classes, bantamweight and super bantamweight. Since unifying in 2023, she has made 3 successful defenses of her bantamweight crown. Promoter Lou DiBella organizing a bantamweight tournament. He's organizing a bantamweight tournament which could feature all 3 top belt holders in the weight class and would provide Thorslund the path to undisputed. There you have it, the women's pound for pound top 10. Okay. Now it's time for to talk about South Dakota. That's the state today for the boxing in the States. Yeah, that's Dina Thorslund. Who is that? Oh, that's part of the boxing in the States. Okay. Bear with me for a minute. Drop my water. Okay, boxing in the States, South Dakota. Let's get that going. 222. 223. Yeah, great card tomorrow, though. Mayor and Ryan and Emiliano Vargas, Bruce Choo Carrington, Tiger Johnson, Troy Osley, and Kevin Farmer and William Zepeda in Mexico. Yeah, they thought Farmer beat him last time, so they put it in Mexico to make sure Zepeda gets it. Farmer's going to need a knockout there. I don't see him getting a decision down there. Oh, he's got to really be dominant. No, really dominant. Okay. Rusty Cage. Yeah, we doing all of them, Rusty. Alphabetical order. It's just South Dakota. We done came all the way from A, going from A to Z. South Dakota is just next in line. South Carolina was last week. Yeah, we're going through every state in the United States. Yeah. South Dakota is, like I said, it's going to be a little short one, not much for boxing, right? But I did find some kind of little boxing history there. But salute Rusty Cage. Good to see you today. Thomas Hill in the building. What's up, T Hill? How are you today? Taking a look at South Dakota. Yeah, Rusty, we were going through a history of boxing or some other significant events in every state in the country, alphabetical order. We're up to South Carolina. South Dakota. South Carolina was last week. Matter of fact, what's next week? I'm trying to stall until 2:30. It's bad luck to start before 2:30. Let's see what's next week. What's after South Dakota? Next week will be Tennessee. Yeah, Tennessee. We only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 10 more. 9 more. Okay. 9 states to go. We have Tennessee, after today, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington State, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. Okay. Got a big one in there, Texas. All right. So it should be a good one. Yeah, but that was the story behind that, Rusty. We were just going through the entire country, doing every state. Yeah, some states couldn't. Like I say, I got some backup plans for today because I know this is going to be a short one. Yeah, we're going to talk about Floyd. Is he really TBE? Canelo and Benavidez. I'm one of the people that still think we're going to get that fight, Canelo and Benavidez. I think Canelo is saving that for last. He's maximizing his money on that. He's going to make that's going to be his cash out fight. Well, you can say every fight is a cash out fight for Canelo. I think he got $35 million against Berlanga. So yeah, but and I'm also one of the people that think Canelo can beat Benavidez. A lot of people think he's not avoiding Benavidez because he thinks he can't beat him, but no, that's not the reason. We're gonna get that fight. going to be Canelo's last fight of his career. He's going to beat the Mexican Monster and then exit stage right. Put the topping on a great career. Yep, Canelo Alvarez. Love him or hate him, he's had a great career. He's the face of the sport, you know. Took the mantle from Floyd. Did a good job of it. I mean, he couldn't give us all the fights we wanted, but, you know, you can't please everybody, you know. Floyd didn't give us all the fights we wanted when we wanted them. We're going to talk about that. Floyd fought a lot of people at opportune times, you know. So, yeah. Nobody pleases everybody. You know, you could, everybody got a little negativity in there, you know? So, yeah, Canelo been a great champion. And yeah, we're going to get him in Benavidez, and we're going to talk about that. But let's get started with South Dakota. And then we're going to get to Floyd. We're going to talk about Floyd, Canelo, and Benavidez. And we're going to talk about Bivol and Beterbiev, too. Yeah. I think we need the trilogy, you know. Why have those two great fights and then go off and fight somebody else? You need to settle it, you know. That's what I think, you know. That would be crazy. It's 1-1. Then they gotta go the rest of their lives, never know who came out on top. No, don't do that. Benavidez will be there to fight at any time. They need to settle that. Now, if Beterbiev would have won the second fight, it's over. Move on to Benavidez, but no. Benavidez can wait. They need to settle that. I want to see it, the trilogy. He can fight, whoever the winner can fight Benavidez later on in the year. You know, that's only fitting to fight each other again. Immediately. Beterbiev gave Bivol the immediate rematch is only fair to settle it. Now, people said Beterbiev didn't look like he was so excited about a trilogy, but the man was probably down because he had lost. How he supposed to be excited? He just got beat. You know? Maybe that's why he wasn't so excited about the trilogy. He just lost. What, he's supposed to be jumping up and down, clapping? No, come on, man. Think. You know, think. The man that just got beat. How excited is anybody after just getting beat? But I think he wants the trilogy. Get the money he's going to make. That too. But boxing in the States, South Dakota. Okay? Let's get into that now. It's 2:30. It's going to be a little short one. We got some other things to talk about. Okay. Now, South Dakota boxing history features both Lakota traditions and the rise of notable boxers like Pat Jefferson and Jerry James, with the Lone Hill brothers establishing Lakota boxing as a force in the 1950s. Now, the state also saw the legalization of MMA boxing and kickboxing in 2014. Now, the early days in Lakota boxing, while the exact origins are lost to history, it's believed that the first Lakota boxers put on gloves over a century ago. Now, for the last 50 years, most boxers in South Dakota were Wasiku, non-native. And they started the first boxing clubs and fight cards. Now, by the 1950s, the Lone Hill brothers, Edgar and Hobart, established Lakota boxing as a significant force. Eddie Martinez, who now runs the Martinez Boxing Club in Rapid City, South Dakota, also began boxing during those years. Early sanctioned fights one of the first legal boxing matches in the state occurred on July 4th, 1923 at Wall Lake. Okay, so let's talk about some young fighters out there in South Dakota. This is going to be a very short one. Okay, but we got some other stuff. Stay with me for a moment. Yeah. Okay. I just had the thing ready and erased it. Here we go. Now this is called Young Fighters Maintain Dakota Tradition. Al Booker in the building. What's up, Al Booker? How are you today? South Dakota. It'll be a short one, but we got some other stuff to talk about too. We did the women's pound for pound list just a little while ago. Now, this is called, like I said, Young Fighters Maintain Lakota Tradition. Now, local fighters excel at hard work, right? Now, it must have been over a century ago that the first Lakota put on boxing gloves. No one thought to take note who he was, where he lived, if he ever fought in the ring. All that is lost to history. For the first 50 years, almost all the boxers in South Dakota were Wasaku. And Wasaku started the first boxing clubs, put on the first fight cards, and like so many before them, they were drawn to the gritty spectacle of the sport. It got into their blood, and when they saw Lakota boys spar for the first time, they were quick to make room for them in their gyms, right? By the 1950s, the Lone Hill brothers, Edgar and Hobart, possibly the two finest boxers ever produced in South Dakota, had established Lakota boxing as a force with which to be reckoned with. And it was during those years that Eddie Martinez put on his first pair of boxing gloves. Now, Eddie Martinez now runs the Martinez Boxing Club in Rapid City, South Dakota. He had a quality amateur career, and for years, he has honed the raw talents of local boys, made bad fighters better, average fighters good, and good fighters great. Tony Kleberg is the president of Rapid City Youth Boxing. He boxed himself from 1963 to 1972. Originally from Ridgefield, South Dakota, Tony moved to Rapid City 8 years ago. And now he and Eddie work together, Eddie Martinez, they work together to keep local boxing alive, because there are still a lot of fighters out there with talent in South Dakota, right? Yeah. You know, now if you look, you find that's boxing. You look in every state, you find a history of boxing if you look, right? You might not think so, but there's boxing there. Now, we don't have the number of boxing clubs, Tony said. They significantly declined. There are so many other sports than there used to be. So many kids in organized sports, right? Take away from the boxing. Now, regardless of that reality, boxers still make it down to the gym to work out. And just like back in boxing's heyday, The best are easy to spot, even when just sparring. Two of the most impressive fighters working under Eddie and Tony are Arlen Janice and Trini Brown. Trini Brown Eyes, okay? A lot of these are Indian boxers. Now, both of their families are originally from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. They are still teenagers, but when they are done growing, they will be about 200 pounds. Right now, Arlen boxes at 165 and Trini at 178. They are very lucky to have each other to spar against because each is probably the best fighter the other will ever mix it up with locally. Okay, just a little short article on some of the young boxers. Like I was saying, you know, you might not find a big boxing history, but you'll find some kind of boxing history in every state if you just got to search for it. That's all. Got another little short story that we're going to talk about. 4 boxers from South Dakota, and then we're going to move on to some other stuff today. Okay. This is about some high school boxing out there. Okay. Yeah, they had high school boxing. Every high school boxing is not everywhere, but South Dakota had high school boxing at one time. Right? Anybody come in? Nope. Okay. Deer Park High School Boxing, 1945 to 1949. And this is by a guy named Robert A. Klaus and Wally Lee. This is going to be Robert Klaus telling the story. Okay. Now, my name is Robert A. Klaus. My family moved from our homestead near the town of Rock Lake in North Dakota to Spokane in 1941, and then in 1944 to a farm 2.5 miles southwest of Clayton, South Dakota. My dad, Royal Klaus, bought draft horses and milk cows and tried to eke out a living as a farmer. Soon he found he needed a job to support the farm, so he went to work at the Clayton brick plant, setting brick, stacking unfired brick into the kiln. Now, since Dad had been trying to find something that suited him since moving to Washington, the lease with an option to buy deal on the old Burger farm, along with the chance to be his own boss and farm with horses, the way he did back on the old homestead, sold him on the area in South Dakota. All our neighbors, it seemed to me, were common, down-to-earth people, just like the ones we knew in North Dakota. But these letters are small. Now, my mom, Elva, took care of the home, while me and my brothers started school. Larry, the youngest, attended the local schools for the full 12 years. The oldest, Don, finished his sophomore and junior years at Deer Park. Then he joined the Army. I attended the 8th grade at Clayton and went on to graduate from Deer Park High in 1949. Now, during my first week at Clayton, 2 of my classmates, Tommy Lewis and Don Steele, took me aside and said they were going to drag me across the railroad tracks and beat the hell out of me. I stared each of them in the eye and asked, "Do I have to fight you both at the same time or just one at a time?" They looked at each other, apparently not prepared for that kind of response, then turned and walked away. So that was that. Later that year, we'd all become good friends. Don, using his rusty old jackknife, nicked our thumbs, his, Tommy's, and mine, and we pressed them together, pledging ourselves as blood brothers. Okay? Now, the three of us graduated out of the 8th grade at Clayton together, moving on as freshmen to Deer Park High School in the autumn of 1945. Now, before attending high school, I'd only been in one fist fight in my entire life. So when the school's athletic instructor, Coach Glenn Click, corralled a bunch of us just before gym class and asked if any would be interested in turning out for boxing. It was a bit of a surprise when my hand went up. There I was, 97 pounds of skin and bone. To this day, I don't know what possessed me, but I do believe it was the best decision I made in high school. Don Steele and Tommy Lewis also joined the boxing team. And the coach always seemed easygoing, spelling out what we should be doing, but leaving us the decision to us. Now, at the start of each season, the coach would begin by stressing the importance of getting into shape. Endurance, speed, and timing, developed by working with the heavy bag, speed bag, medicine ball, and lots of running and muscle building exercises. He always finished by saying, "You don't have to get into shape, but if you don't, you're the one that's going to be taking the beating, not me." Okay? Now, I don't know when he started teaching at Deer Park or how long he stayed after I graduated. But while I was there, he taught health and he coached all the boys' sports. But I think the sport he loved the most was boxing. Now and then, when somebody got the feeling kind of cocky, the coach would slide in on his gloves, crawl into the ring, and we would get to see him in action, right? With the students, he would only spar, but it still was impressive. He was balanced, fast, and polished. A master at the sport, and clearly the one doing the teaching. There's always a few underclassmen who stand out. Now, as a beginner, you can only look at them in awe. In the fall of 45, the three that impressed me the most were Johnny Crandall, Ken Fisher, and Paul Inman. Now, I don't know where Johnny Crandall came from. He was always quiet and didn't seem to mingle with anyone. But when he got into that boxing ring, threw off the robe, and stood squarely in front of his opponent, he looked like a chiseled statue. I can imagine what his opponents were thinking. Now, he never threw a roundhouse. Every punch was straight and swift from the shoulders. And not just one punch, but a short jackhammer burst. He annihilated every single opponent I can ever recall of. Paul Inman and Kenny Fisher were both tougher than nails, gentlemen. Both were stand-up fighters and 1-2 punchers with a solid shoulder behind every crisp punch. The only real difference, Paul was a right-hander, Kenny left. Kenny and the other guy was left-handed. Now, neither seemed in a particularly benevolent mood when he got into the ring. and rarely did a match go the distance. Usually, they put a quick end to their opponent with technical knockouts. Coach Click taught us the rules. The front half of the body from the belt up was fair game, as was the head from the front of the ears forward. Behind the ears was a rabbit punch, and behind the rib cage was a kidney punch. You could have points deducted from your score for either discrepancy, and if you persisted, you'd be disqualified. Okay? Which because it was considered such poor sportsmanship. And rarely did anyone get disqualified. Mike Rim is, what's up, Mike Rim? We were just going over some little boxing in North Dakota. Let's go to the boxers from North Dakota. That was just, this guy started some high school boxing up there. South Dakota. Started some high school boxing up there in South Dakota. That's kind of long. And those words are small. My eyes already bad enough. So I got 4 boxers from South Dakota. Then I got some other interesting stuff that we're going to cover after we look at these boxers from South Dakota. Okay. Now I got to find them. Got to get past the women. Number 10 was, I forgot who it was. Okay, here we go. I believe we're there. Yeah, Dina Thorson was number 10. There's Dina Thorson. She was number 10 on the women's pound for pound list. There we go. Okay, I got 4 boxers from South Dakota, so this is going to be a little short one. Boxers from South Dakota. The first one is Sean Hawks. He's from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Okay. He had a record of 23 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw, 17 knockouts. Okay, Sean Hawks. Let's take a look at Sean real quick. I didn't put Sean in, but I can remedy that. Sean Hawks. Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Now, Sean was a professional boxer from Sioux Falls, from the Crow Creek Sioux tribe, right? And he fights in the light heavyweight division, having previously boxed at cruiserweight. Okay, Sean. Let's see something. I don't think Sean is still active. Box rec for Sean Hawk. There we go. No, his career's been over. Okay, next is Pat Jeffries. He was an amateur. A 1975 Rapid City Central High grad, he became one of South Dakota's greatest boxers with an amateur record of 249 wins, 24 losses. Okay. From 1965 to 1980. He was the first South Dakotan to win a national boxing title at the 1973 Junior Olympics. There's Pat Jefferson right. Wait a minute. Yeah, that's Pat Jefferson right there. Next is Jerry James. Here's Jerry James. Jerry is from Sioux Falls. 20 wins, 6 losses, 10 knockouts. A 1980 South Dakota State graduate. He was the #1 rated amateur boxer in the United States at 165 pounds in 1988. He was a South Dakota Golden Gloves champion in 1982 and 83, as well as a USA ABF champion. Okay. So now, there you have it, South Dakota. Told you it was a little short one, but we got to do every state. Okay. Next week is Tennessee. That'll be a little better. Bruce Gas, Boxing, Jazz, and more. What's up, Bruce Gas? Okay. Now let's move on. That's some interesting stuff here. Okay. Okay, where are we? We're going to talk about Floyd. Now, who are some boxers that would have beaten Floyd Mayweather? Talking about some guys from different eras and stuff. You know, because he calls himself TBE. I don't think so. Now, I like Floyd. Floyd was a great fighter and everything, but now he's supposed to say that about himself, but nah, he wasn't TBE. Let's talk about it. Okay? Let's talk about it. And, you know, TBE, he's talking about like pound for pound the best. And there's one guy I think that probably has a good argument against that, you know. Floyd being TBE. I think that guy right there has something to say about it. But let's talk about it. Floyd Money Mayweather. It's the TBE. But he's supposed to call himself that though, right? You know? Okay. Bear with me for one moment. Got some good cards. Oh, don't forget tomorrow is Life and Career of JCC, Julio Cesar Chavez. Okay? Yeah. That's the profile tomorrow. Should be a good one. Julio Cesar Chavez. Here we go, right here. Okay. Now, who are some fighters that would have beaten Floyd Mayweather Jr.? Now, many fighters have the talent to be great. Only a few are actually great. Okay? There we go. Have to drop that down some. Yeah, many fighters have the talent to be great. Only a few are actually great. Talent plus hard work plus record equals greatness. Who of history's great fighters could have beaten Floyd Mayweather? Quite a few, actually. Quite a few. Okay. Actually. Yeah. I don't think he's nowhere near. And don't get me wrong, I like Floyd, but he's nowhere near the best ever. Quite a few could have beaten him. Contrary to what Floyd and Floyd lovers believe, at least 25 fighters in classes Floyd competed in had the talent and style to have beaten him on his very best day. Iron Mike Tyson once said of Floyd's claim to be the best of all time, he's delusional. That's what Iron Mike said. He's delusional. Okay? Mike said Floyd was delusional. Kensaw Love One comes into the building bearing gifts. How are you today, Kensaw Love One? And Jarrell Hattie, salute. Yeah, we finished with South Dakota. We talking about Floyd now. And is he really TBE? Okay. I appreciate you, Kensaw Love One. Kensaw Love One always come in bearing gifts. You know? Every day. Salute Ken Solo. Okay. But Mike Tyson said about Floyd's claim to be the best of all time. Mike said Floyd was delusional. According to Floyd, he's the best fighter in the history of boxing, and he quipped that he's even better than Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson. Iron Mike Tyson begged to differ. Iron Mike said, Floyd is a little scared man. He's a very small, scared man, okay? The 53-year-old boxing Hall of Famer has unquestionably speaking for people that are disputing Floyd's claims to be the best ever. Talking about Mike. It's notable that Mike was speaking as a boxing historian. He made clear other fighters were greater than Floyd by far. So who is right, Iron Mike or Floyd? In this case, Iron Mike is right, okay? The original Hartford Dodger, okay? Floyd fought a lot of people at opportune times, right? Why is Floyd one of the most egregious duckers of all time? Because he failed the most basic test of who is the greatest. The most basic tenet of boxing is, as Jack Blackburn, Hall of Fame trainer and fighter, said, we are the business of winning fights. The guy who beats the best the most often is the best, okay? Sports writer and boxing historian Matthew Rhodes says, comparing athletes of any sport against, of course, generations is a difficult task to do at the best of times. And when you also have to add in across weight divisions in boxing, it becomes more awkward still. That's what makes boxing so hard. You're not just comparing fighters from different eras, you're comparing them at all different weights and everything. But that said, the way it is normally done is by comparing resumes. Who a boxer has defeated, how they beat them, what they beat them for, who they lost to, and how they lost. Floyd does not compare with some of the greats. The greatest fighters do not duck credible opponents. Floyd certainly did duck those he thought might beat him. Floyd's cherry-picking was shameless. Jack Blackburn, history's greatest trainer, says, greatness is judged in the ring on who you beat, when you beat them, and how you beat them. Now, like I said, I like Floyd, but Floyd falls short on this, right? Who you beat and when you beat them, okay? He falls short on that. Roberto Duran was brutal about Floyd's cherry picking. Roberto said he has not fought with anybody. Sugar Ray Leonard laughed when asked about the claim Floyd is the best ever. When asked about Floyd's beating any of the four kings, Leonard, Hearns, Duran, and Hagler, Sugar Ray just laughed and said he couldn't. I agree. He couldn't beat any of the four kings. Prime versus prime? That's 4 losses right there. But of course, Floyd wouldn't have fought him in the prime. He would have waited, right? Now, the following boxers would be favored over Floyd Mayweather, not just because of talent and style, but because of experience of facing the best. Okay? The greatest fighters do not duck credible opponents. Floyd certainly did duck those he thought might beat him, right? Jack Blackburn was asked once why Joe Louis would risk facing former champions like Max Baer, and summed up perfectly why great fighters need great opposition. You can't get no better facing bums. You need to fight champions if you want to be one. Now, Jack Blackburn can call bombs because he fought himself, okay? But none of us fans can do that. That was Jack Blackburn, a former fighter, and Joe Lewis's trainer saying that, right? Floyd's failure to truly challenge himself would be his downfall against many of the men named below. At super featherweight, Alexis Arguello, the thin man combined exquisite boxing skills with murderous power. His elite boxing skill and power tops Floyd. Julio Cesar Chavez. Chavez was a vicious infighter who would simply overwhelm Floyd. His cast iron chin and constant pressure take the day. Look, see Madonna's fight against Floyd, and then multiply Madonna by 10, you get Chavez, okay? At lightweight, the hands of stone, Roberto Duran. Great boxer, incredible power. At lightweight, 90% knockout rate, and mean as a snake. Good night, Floyd. Benny Leonard, the ghetto wizard. The ghetto wizard could box and bang. A wonder fighter with amazing skills would be too much for Floyd, okay? Floyd fought in the exact right era, okay? That's all I'm saying. The old master, Joe Yans. The old master was another who could do it all and didn't duck nobody. Great skills, sneaky fast, strong, incredible power. He would give Floyd a lesson he would never forget. Pernell Whitaker. Sweepy would have beaten Floyd at any weight they fought at. Every bit as good a defensive fighter and better offensive arsenal. Okay? The great Ike Williams. Ike was a great boxer with lethal right and had the right combination of skills to nail Floyd. At super lightweight, Aaron Pryor. Hawk time, Floyd. Aaron Pryor would beat Floyd like day-old washing. Fast, strong, incredible power, great boxing skills. The great Barney Ross. Amazing boxing master. Technical skills beyond reproach. Chin-up cast on. Great defender. I'm just trying to put, Floyd is not the best ever, okay? Not even close. Great fighter, though. Best of his era, but not the best ever, not even close. Like I say, he fought in the right era. In a different era, Floyd might have had like 8 or 9 losses, man. Seriously. Antonio Cervantes. Kid Pambalay was another great boxer with power. Great chin. Only stopped twice in 80 fights. At welterweight, who are some of the great fighters that would have beat Floyd at welterweight? BBO Boxing TV. What's up, BBO? He would have, and BBO, Floyd wouldn't even fought Ike Williams. They was in the same era. He would have ducked him. But salute BBO Boxing TV. Okay, yeah, we did South Dakota, but now we on to, it was a little short one. Now, we looking at I'm just pointing out why Floyd ain't the best ever. And I've got some fighters at each weight that would have beat him. We already up to welterweight. Already had like 15. Welterweight. Sugar Ray Robinson. Best welterweight who ever lived. Could bang, box, and defend. Great chin. Floyd would not have a chance. And Sugar Ray Robinson, in all the skills he had, he's a member of the 100 Knockout Club too. 109 knockouts during his career. Another welterweight, Sugar Ray Leonard. Second only to the original Sugar Ray, fast, strong, power in both hands, mean little guy. Probably stops Floyd late. Hitman Hearns, that's a total rematch, total mismatch. How's Floyd going to get past that jab? And then when he get past that jab, you know what's waiting for him? That wicked right hand. Floyd is made for Tommy Hearns. Terrible style matchup for Floyd. That long, nasty jab keeps Floyd away until Tommy drops the atomic right hand on him. Wilfred Benitez. Alredo was at least as good a defensive fighter as Floyd, but he was stronger, he hit harder, and as good a boxer when sober. Jose Napoles. Man, Kriller could do it all. Great skills, sneaky fast, strong, good power, great defense. The great Emil Griffith. Griffith also could do it all. Great skills, sneaky fast, strong, good power, great defense. Kid Gavilan, the Cuban Hawk, was a true boxing master. Incredible sense of timing and distance. Great defender. Never stopped in his career. KO, TKO, whatever, never stopped. Okay? You think Floyd gonna stop him? Hell no. Felix Trinidad, good boxer, solid defender, good chin, truly generational power. Only defeats came at middleweight and super middleweight. The Toy Bulldog, Mickey Walker. The Toy Bulldog was mean as hell, powerful as a little tank, could box, and at the end of his career was beating up heavyweights. Okay? Holman Williams, one of the Murderers Road. We get into some Murderers Road fighters now. Holman Williams, fabulous boxer. Not a lot of power, but at least as good a boxer as Floyd. Probably a little bit better. Okay? Charlie Burley, thought to be the best of the Murderers Road gang. Part of the Murderers Road of avoided great black fighters in the 1930s and 40s. Title holders avoided Burley like the plague. Charlie was good enough when Ray Robinson's manager suggested he fight a discretionary against Charlie. Ray said, "I thought you liked me and worked for me." Floyd wouldn't have fought Charlie Burley. He would have ducked him. He would have never fought him. And then Sugar Ray said no to the fight. Like I say, Floyd would too. Terrence Crawford, mean as hell. Strong, fast, powerful, would figure Floyd out and overpower him. Okay? That was the welterweights. Junior middleweight, Mike McCallum. The body snatcher had great skill, amazing power, and was tough as old shoe leather. Winky Wright. Floyd called out Winky, agreed to a contract, and then when he watched Smooth and Silk Winky on film, said hell no. Backed out of the fight. Terry Norris. Terrible Terry was lightning fast with explosive power in both hands, and he also could box. Monty Cox, when compiling the list of all-time great welterweights, found Mayweather underdeserved because of his ducking great opponents. Floyd Mayweather's career does not give him a top 10 spot. Luis Rodriguez, for example, had a better career than Floyd, beating Emil Griffith, Benny Parrott, Hurricane Carter, Curtis Coates, Georgie Benton, and Benny Briscoe, all in their prime. Historian Monty Cox said, "I cannot, in all honesty, put Floyd in the top 10 welterweights based on a career of hand-picked opponents and having never unified a major title. Floyd avoided fights with Mosley, Margarito, and Pacquiao, and Paul Williams. When they meant something, he waited for these opponents to slow down and fade before considering facing them. Mayweather does not have the competition to be considered a true all-time great, right? And probably couldn't have beat any of the 10 top welterweights. It is Floyd's lack of experience against truly elite competition that dooms him against men of comparable talent. The 25 great fighters named above, all of whom battled the very best in their prime, were at their peaks, have shown Floyd at his best what he missed by avoiding the great challenges. Mm-hmm. He did that to himself by ducking, right? Yeah. Floyd is a great fighter, but not TBE, not by far. Just named 25 fighters that were in front of him for their title. But he's supposed to think he's that, you know. Any fighter worth his salt supposed to think that, right? But nah. Okay. Now, could David El Monstro Benavidez really be able to beat Canelo Alvarez? I'm one of the people that think we're still going to get that fight. Mm-hmm. And I'm also one of the people that think Canelo can beat David Benavidez. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be Canelo's last fight, right? And he's not avoiding Benavidez because he don't think he can beat him. He's just making it worth as much money. By the time you get to the end of their careers, it's going to be a mega fight. It'll probably be the number one pay-per-view all time. Who's number one? Floyd and Conor McGregor, or Floyd and Manny? One of those. Canelo Benavidez will break that by the time they fight. And they are going to fight. I really believe that. I don't know where this is at, man. Put it in here. Let me try again. Search. Oh, Lord, I got to type all this stuff in. Okay, bear with me for a second, please. But we're going to talk about, could David Benavidez really be able to beat Canelo Alvarez? No, I don't think so. I really don't. I think we're going to see that. We're going to see, though. There it is right there. Okay. We are going to find out. That fight will happen. Is this the one? Yeah, this is it. Okay. After the fight between David Benavidez and David Morrell, the theoretical fight between Canelo and David Benavidez becomes way more interesting than it already was, right? Now, this is going to be an in-depth breakdown and then a comparison between David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez, right? And in order to truly find out how hard of a fight this is going to be on either side, we have to consider many factors. And after the unanimous decision victory of David Morrell and Canelo deciding to fight the pound-for-pound King turns Crawford, this conversation just got a lot more complex. So let's find out who out of the two would have the highest probability of coming out victorious and how much of a war it would be for either side. Canelo and David Benavidez. Okay. Now, David Morrell versus David Benavidez. Why that fight is important for consideration when you're talking about Benavidez and Canelo. Now, Benavidez won a unanimous decision victory over David Morrell, who was an undefeated Cuban who had a record of 11-0 with 9 knockouts. That was 81.8% knockout rate. Morrell had a decorated amateur background, and many thought he was going to be a massive problem for Benavidez. I didn't. Thinking, and I got receipts, thinking the southpaw boxer was going to humble him at his second fight at light heavyweight. But like I said, you gotta let these. David Morrell is just past prospect status. He hadn't even had no business in there with Benavidez. Let these prospects be prospects, man. But you know, they kind of jumping the gun nowadays. And Benavidez showed he had no business in there with him. Okay. Now, yeah, he was just past prospect status. But yet, many thought he was going to humble David Benavidez. But instead, he suffered his first loss at the hands of Benavidez in a fight of power, speed, and skill. There were many moments where Morrell showed his talent and power, hurting Benavidez a few times through the early rounds, and a very controversial decision by the ref to count a very arguable knockdown. Through it all, David Benavidez prevailed. He dominated the rounds going forward, outlanding Morrell using great manipulation and his lightning fast speed to his advantage, controlling Morrell and walking him down in nearly every round showing that he still is a force to be reckoned with at 175. Now, why is this important when we're looking forward to a fight between Canelo and Benavidez? Now, David proved something that would give Canelo Alvarez even more trouble for him. More on that later. But first, we will go through a breakdown of their age, skills, current accomplishments, and more. Benavidez, okay, 30, 24 knockouts, 80% on the dot, right, for Benavidez. Now, he became the youngest super middleweight champion in history at 20 years old. Benavidez did. Am I missing anybody coming in? Yeah, Mike Grimm says it wasn't a knockdown. He fought him at the wrong time, though, BVO. He didn't fight him in their primes. He fought him at opportune times, Fought him at opportune times. When he little doubt they could beat him then, Now, he probably would have beat him in the primes. He fought Manny 2009, 2010. Pretty Boy Floyd probably would have stopped Manny. But he didn't fight him then. He didn't fight Paul Williams. He waited on Sugar Shane, all of them, at opportune times. Yeah. But he fought the names. Yeah. But, it's when did you fight him? But Benavidez, Mike Grimm says it was no knockdown. Okay. So where were we? Before BBO interrupted me. Where were we? He's 28 years old from Phoenix, Arizona. He's now on the cusp of his prime. He's recently moved up to light heavyweight, talking about Benavidez. He's now secured a couple titles. Early in his career, up until quite recently, he campaigned as a top contender at the super middleweight division. And make no mistake, he is physically a monster compared to Canelo. Now, I didn't say Canelo would beat him. I said he's capable of beating him, okay? Yeah. And I don't think that's the reason he's not fighting him, because he's scared he can't beat him. No. As a result, Benavidez claimed the WBA regular world light heavyweight belt recently, and he secured the WBC interim gold world light heavyweight belt in his most recent fight against the skilled Cuban fighter, David Morrell. It's just by unanimous decision. That's the problem. He got the WBA regular world light heavyweight belt. What the hell is the WBA interim gold world light heavyweight belt? That's the problem with boxing nowadays, man. WBA regular light world light heavyweight belt and the WBA interim gold world light heavyweight belt. But they got a WBA interim blue light heavyweight belt too? Come on, man. That's ridiculous. But anyway, Benavidez win over Morrell placed him as a top contender already in the light heavyweight division. And he is the mandatory challenger for the WBC for Bivol, right? Yeah. He was going to be the mandatory challenger for the WBC for whoever won, which was Bivol. So, yeah. But I want to see the trilogy. Benavidez can wait, man. Why have those two great fighters with those two great fights just stop at 1-1? That would be senseless, man. I don't understand it. That would be senseless to me. And then go fight Benavidez. No, they got to settle that, man. Then 100 years from now, when people looking back, I wonder who would have won that third fight. But he fought Benavidez instead. No, come on, man. You got to have a trilogy. Suppose Ali and Frazier had to stop that one fight, right? How would that have turned out? What would we be talking about now? Ali and Frazier would have fought that third fight. Frazier would have beat him. Come on, man. You got to go ahead and have the third fight. Benavidez can wait. Makes sense? Two great fights. It's 1-1, and all of a sudden y'all ain't gonna fight no more. That's crazy. Almost stupid. Come on, man. Now, Canelo Alvarez really doesn't need any introduction in the sport of boxing. But just in case somebody been living under a rock and never heard of Canelo, he's a 34-year-old Mexican from Guadalajara, Mexico, multi-division champion, known for his boxer puncher style, along with the spice of that classic Mexican aggression. He is currently a unified, former undisputed, first ever four-belt at super middleweight champion. His most recent fight was a unanimous decision victory over Edgar Berlanga. Right, Edgar went down in round 3, and Canelo may be smaller, but he's known as one of the best boxers of his era and the current face of boxing. Okay, in case anybody never heard of Canelo, that was a quick rundown on him. As a result of turning professional at 15 and having over a decade and a half of experience in the sport, he's a 4-division champion as well as an extremely skilled and seasoned fighter. He has amassed double the wins of David Benavidez with only 2 losses and 2 draws to elite competition. 62 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws, 66 fights. He's an old 34, okay? Only 34, but an old 34. Now, and he's the current unified holder of WBO, WBC. He got stripped. Middleweight. I think he's gonna fight. What's the guy name that he got stripped for the IBF for? Cinco de Mayo, right? I can't think of his name. Never heard of him before. I hadn't. I can't think of his name. And he's known for his great defense, counter punching, and especially head movement. Canelo. Okay. Now, why does David Benavidez want to fight Canelo in the first place? Benavidez has made it well known that he wants to fight Canelo, but as of late, he done got past that, hell with Canelo. But I think they're still going to fight. Now, especially when he was at 168, he wanted to fight Canelo, wanting to chase greatness through trying to pursue the then undisputed champion and cracking the extremely hard Canelo code, right? Hungry and the monster having sights on him, Canelo knows that Benavidez is the hardest fight of all his options. Being very possible, he has called out Canelo multiple times for ducking him. And honestly, who can blame Benavidez, I don't think he's ducking him, but hey, what else Benavidez supposed to say? Now, why does Canelo refuse to fight David Benavidez? Glad y'all asked. Why does he refuse to fight him? Okay, Mike says Canelo would definitely go to Benavidez's body, slow him down. Yeah, I would pick Canelo in that one, Mike. I'm not saying he would win it, but I would pick him going in. But that is a good point. He would definitely go to that body, right? And it's a lot of that big, tall body going to be standing in front of him, too. And Benavidez going to be right there. Okay, ain't going to be no moving around boxing. The Mexican monster going to be right there, okay? Now, why does Canelo refuse to fight Benavidez? Okay? Knowing clearly that David Benavidez would be a really big problem for him, Canelo seems uninterested in having a lack, for better word, war with Benavidez instead of arguably cherry-picking his last couple of opponents in order to maximize his profit. Yeah, I was right. He made a whopping $35 million in the fight against Edgar Berlanga. Everybody knew he was going to win, right? He could have stopped him if he'd wanted to. Berlanga is nowhere near on the same caliber of Canelo or David Benavidez, right? And Canelo stated that he would only fight Benavidez for a minimum of $200 million. Right, minimum of 200 million. So what do we want? 300 million? But he said you got to get at least 200 million, right? And that's the kind of money. Turkey Alley Sheik probably not even paying that much for that fight, But nowadays, see, Canelo puts business first instead of the glory. Since he seems pleased with the legacy he's already made, Canelo said, at this point, I've fought with all the champions and all the best out there. I can do whatever I want now. And I don't like the way Benavidez approached the fight. I think he's wanted to fight, and he's been disrespectful. But Canelo, no, you can't do what you want. But drop the belts, then do what you want. I don't agree with that. As long as you got those belts, you can't do what you want. You got to do what those sanctioning bodies want you to do, and the fans too. Drop the belts, then fight Mr. Magoo if you want to. But as long as you got them belts, no, you can't do what you want. I heard it when he said that. He said that after the McGear fight, stood in the ring. I can do what I want to do. No, you can't. You got the belts, man. Those other guys deserve a chance at those belts, right? Now, pointing to the disrespect Benavidez has said in the past, growing tired of how long he has been waiting as a mandatory challenger for Canelo Alvarez, Benavidez decided to move on up to 175 in an attempt to chase the belt there, making his debut fighting Alexander Wozniak in a pleasing fight, but didn't show that knockout power he had at 168. Still, it's clear Canelo wants nothing to do with David, and being a fresher and larger fighter with the style to match, we all know Canelo sees Benavidez as the biggest current threat that he can fight in either division, or at least the toughest fight. Now, Benavidez later responded when asked if he thinks he would get the fight with Alvarez. I think he will. Benavidez said, I don't know. You guys keep asking me about that fight, and I know as much as you guys do. I would love that fight. I love to fight Canelo. It would be a massive, massive fight. But he says he has other things, and that I'm being too mean and disrespectful in the way I approach him. So I guess I had to work on my attitude. No, keep doing what you're doing, Mexican monster. This is boxing. You ain't got to be respectful. You know? Who's Canelo? You call everybody else the P word and everything. Call Canelo that too. Don't change your energy. And this is what Benavidez had to say about how he feels that Canelo has been ducking him. I definitely do use that as motivation, because if I'm such an easy target, he would have came and beat me by now, Benavidez said. Just for him not fighting me lets me know how dangerous I am. Okay, so now let's analyze the fighters against each other now, okay? Let's see how they match up against each other. Benavidez. Advantages for Benavidez, right? Clearly the bigger fighter, now beginning his prime, standing at a large 7-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage, all while being 6 years younger, more aggressive than Canelo, and tends to overwhelm them with volume, throws combinations and punches at a lightning fast rate for his size, and defensively underrated with good power to match. Yeah, he is defensively underrated. Benavidez's style, aggressive and fast volume puncher. Now, disadvantages for Benavidez against Canelo. Disadvantages. Benavidez is very susceptible to uppercuts, not as experienced or seasoned as Canelo. Has few but some imperfections in his defense and could be exploited by the extremely skilled Canelo, counterpunching Canelo. Benavidez's chin is above average, but not as tough as Canelo's. Nobody's chin is as tough as Canelo's, not unless you name Jake LaMotta. And Benavidez can be and has been knocked down before, okay? Now look at Canelo, the advantages. Advantages for Canelo against David Benavidez, okay? Canelo is clearly the more experienced fighter. Exceptional head movement and great evasiveness. Canelo is a great counterpuncher with heavy hands, with the potential to outbox Benavidez. Canelo is extremely tough, has never been knocked down, never will be, thanks to that granite chin. Good at exploiting openings to places like the body. That's what Mike Wynn was just talking about. That's what I told you. Good point, Mike. Canelo is good at exploiting openings to the places like the body, all along with better overall defense than Benavidez. Benavidez. I'm saying it like Squeeze. Squeeze says Benavidez. Yeah, Squeeze says Benavidez. Okay. Yeah, Canelo's style. Powerful counterpuncher. Okay. Now, this is Canelo's disadvantages against Benavidez. Canelo's disadvantages. Considerable height and reach disadvantage. What I said was 7 in height and 4 in reach. Let me go back up. I forgot what it was. Y'all got time. Okay, yeah. 7-inch height advantage and 4-inch reach disadvantage for Canelo against Benavidez, okay? So, we talk about Canelo's disadvantages in that matchup. Considerable height and reach disadvantage. 7 height, 4 reach. That is considerable. Wow, significant. Along with being prone to being overwhelmed by volume combination punching when caught. Canelo is not as fast as Benavidez when it comes to throwing punches. And sometimes Canelo is susceptible to jabs, especially when faced with shorter reach. And lastly, Canelo is not as good at being the aggressor compared to Benavidez, compared to when he is on the back foot. Okay, quality of record. Now, when all is said and done, many may still say that since Canelo has had more fights with more people of quality of opposition, he is easily going to win. No, I wouldn't say that. Or that since Benavidez is undefeated, then it means he will come victorious. But they have only but some credibility to their claims. Records at face value are never the deciding factor, since promoters like to build records of journeymen. So going through both records and those they have faced to give you a rough idea estimate of the amount of and the quality of opponents they went against, win or lost. Keep in mind, this is not 100% accurate, right? And bound to have 1 or 2 flaws. But in order to give you a good idea of their records and the fighters they fight when compared on a deeper level, so please take this into consideration. But remember, records aren't everything. Okay. Now Canelo, total fights 66. He's won 62, right? 39 by knockout. That's 59.1%. 23 by decision. 2 losses. That's 3% of his total fights. That's both by decision, right? 2 draws, 3%. Quality of opponents. Canelo has had 3 fights against undefeated opponents. He's had 15 fights against fighters with 1 to 3 losses. He's had 30 fights against fighters with winning records. 18 against fighters with mixed or negative or losing records. Wow, damn, that must have been when he was down there in Mexico, fighting in bars. You know, he walked into a bar, they say, clear the dance floor, put the ring up. You know, yeah. If he started fighting, that's what was happening. Down in Mexico, yeah. Just walk into a bar and they clear the floor, get their ring over there, Jose, put it up. Get Santo to help you. That's where all those negative records must have been at. Now Benavidez, he has 30 total fights. 130, 24 by knockout, 80% on the dot, right? Quality of opponents. Now he's fought 2 undefeated opponents. And he's had 7 fights against opponents with 1 to 3 losses. And 18 fights against opponents with winning records. And 10 against mixed or negative records. I don't understand that, mixed or negative record. Mixed or negative record. Well, let's move on. Now, at what weight class should this fight take place? So if we are truly to put these two proven and skilled, at what weight class should they fight at? Okay, light heavyweight. At 175 pounds, the average height is 6'2", right? Canelo Alvarez had 2 fights in the light heavyweight division, daring to try and create an even more accomplished career and legacy. His debut was against Sergey Kovalev, 2019, for the WBO light heavyweight championship. Canelo controlled the fight, even scoring the win with 11th round knockout. To be fair, though, Sergey Kovalev was past his prime. He was 37, right? And being a relatively smaller light heavyweight, he was taller but smaller, you know what I mean? Yeah. Light heavyweight with a record of 34 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw. All while fighting a prime Canelo. But credit where credit is due. For he has held multiple world championship titles and was still a skilled champion. But Canelo prevailed, claiming yet another division belt. Okay? His second and last fight at light heavyweight, you know who that one was, for the WBA light heavyweight title against the defending and elite light heavyweight champion, Dimitri Bivol, who was 19-0 at the time. Primed along with a tricky and slick fighting style and being a great outfighter, he was sure to cause some problems for Canelo. When the fight began, with Bivol controlling the ring and landing punches at will, even catching the worn-down Canelo for a couple of long multi-punch combinations. Canelo tried his best, but in the end, gassed out and became frustrated with Bivol's constant jab and knowledge of the sweet science of boxing. In the end, Bivol secured a unanimous decision victory, showing the world that a good big man beats a good little man. Canelo shortly after realized he had reached the ceiling limit of his weight and decided to move back to super middleweight, right? Okay. Now, David Benavidez has only recently moved up this light heavyweight, okay? But he has already made his mark in the division with the short time he has been there. His debut was a unanimous decision win against former lineal champion Alexander Gvozdyk, right? 37, 10 years older than Benavidez, right? And he was a gold medalist. But he was the taller and older fighter than the young 27-year-old Benavidez. And Gvozdyk was 20-1 at the time. And he had 250 amateur fights. His only loss at the professional level was against Artur Beterbiev, right? Him and Benavidez fought last year, 2024, with Benavidez doing exceptionally well in the early rounds, but gassed out in the later, allowing Gvozdyk to land some good hits of his own. Many were concerned about the debut at 175 due to Benavidez struggling more than he probably should in the fight against a bigger fighter his size. Benavidez later claimed that he had a recent hand injury, including a torn ligament and tendon, as well as a recent cut on his eye, not wanting to cancel or postpone the fight. Benavidez fought anyway, feeling like he wasn't able to get 100% in the fight, okay? He stated, Benavidez stated, "I was definitely worried about the injury. I started camp a month and a half ago. I tore a tendon. They told me it wasn't going to heal in time. They told me it needed at least 3 months. I said, I don't care. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep training. Then I hurt my left hand, and they told me you have to take a break for it. And I said, no way. That's not going to happen. I'm going to keep fighting." Then he said, 3 weeks before the fight, I'm sparring, dominating 3 different sparring partners. And in the last round, I got cut. He said, that worried me a lot. And said, I did not think I was going to make it to the fight, but my dad told me the cut is not too big. We can keep going. I put my faith in God because I wanted to get to this fight. I did not want to miss out on the event. I didn't want the fans to miss out because this was a big moment for the fans. And through it all, even with the injuries he had, Benavidez was still able to close the show with a unanimous decision victory over the bigger Ukrainian champion and had now secured the WBA interim light heavyweight belt. and now had a shot to become the potential mandatory for the rest of the light heavyweight titles held by, at that time, Bivol and Benavidez shared the titles, right? And now they unified by Bivol. Well, Benavidez unified them first, and then Bivol took them back. So where should this fight before that, though? Right? Now, Benavidez's second and most recent fight at light heavyweight was his last fight last month against 27-year-old David Morrell Jr. Talented Cuban fighter. Like I said, he was 11-0 coming in, 9 knockouts, like 81.1%. Difficult southpaw, standing at 6'1". And Morrell had a 4-inch reach advantage on Benavidez. Both men were proven talents. They both the same size and both undefeated fighters. And unlike his last fight at light heavyweight, coming in with injuries, if Benavidez lost this time, there would be no excuses, coming in 100% this time. Leading up to the fight, many thought Morrell's style was going to cause a ton of problems for Benavidez. Since many worried that he would not fare well in a division of heavier, bigger guys than his previous opponents, predicting an upset victory. And many bold enough to even claim Morrell would stop him, right? But that could not be further from the truth. Benavidez showed a lot more heart and skill than his previous fight and proved exactly who he was, a monster, controlling the ring and using his IQ through guard manipulation, switching his southpaw in order to extend his punches, combinations, capitalizing on openings to the body, and using beautiful parries and counters against Morrell. To Morrell's credit, he showed incredible heart and chin against Benavidez, landing shots that sometimes here and there wobbled David Benavidez, proving that he still is a serious puncher and a great boxer. Yet Benavidez prevailed and comfortably. He was ahead on all the scorecards, securing a unanimous decision victory, as well as claiming the WBA regular world light heavyweight belt, along with the WBA interim gold light heavyweight belt, earning the spot as the top contender. And he's the WBC mandatory for Bivol right now. Yes, he is. Benavidez. So I think the fight should be at 168, right? Now, 175, Benavidez probably would win it, okay? 168, Canelo. 175, Benavidez, 168, Canelo. Now, Canelo is absolutely a great fighter, and it's still very possible he could win at 175. It just seemed like it could turn out similar to the Bivol fight, right? Benavidez probably wouldn't outclass him as clearly as Bivol did, but he would probably win a close unanimous decision. But the amount of pounds Canelo put on for the division clearly slowed him down against Bivol, right? But it might not give him slow him down enough to give the advantage to Benavidez, like it did to Bivol. Now the thing is, Benavidez never had one-punch knockout power. He mostly relied on his quick and aggressive flurries of punches, with some power to match. Right? He's 6'2", while throwing punches in super middleweight as if he belongs 2 divisions below, and still managed to retain that speed, especially in the 4th round of the Morrell fight, throwing a flurry of punches right before the bell with impressive speed. Now, normally going up a division means you would fight bigger guys that weight more, and therefore would be harder to hurt, knock out than before. This is true for most of the division for Benavidez, but the fight of step 5 for the Canelo at a hefty 175. Canelo is a natural junior middleweight, also where most of his career took place. Now, Benavidez fighting a 5'8" smaller Canelo coming up to 175 could be a nightmare for Canelo, right? Now, Canelo ain't getting knocked out. Benavidez probably would take a decision at 175. But 168 is probably a different story, I would say. So Canelo would probably have to fight at 168. That's probably where they would fight at. And David would come back down for that. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. That's what I would say. Benavidez wins at 175. Canelo wins at 168. Because Canelo has been a much more proven fighter at 168. Even at 5'8", he still dominated the division, being a unified and undisputed champion, right? And he never lost the belts in the ring, okay? And that super middleweight is obvious. He's a very skilled and proven pound-for-pound fighter. And if Benavidez were to come back down and fight Canelo, it would be a much tougher fight for him than at 175, okay? Canelo has about 10 fights in the division. And a lot more than the measly 2 fights he has at light heavyweight. And he's much more comfortable at 168 and battle tested for sure. And that changes a lot of things. So yeah, 168, Canelo. Okay, 175, Benavidez, 168, Canelo. And the fight would likely be at 168, you know. Because just like we talking about this, Canelo knows that. He knows all the advantages and things he would have at 168. And the disadvantages he would have at 175. So yeah, it would be at 168. And I would pick Canelo to win that one. Mm-hmm. And I still think we're going to get that fight. I think that's going to be Canelo's last fight, and then he's going to ride on off into the sunset with a boatload of money. He ain't getting no 200 million. Turkey Al-Sheikh ain't even giving him no 200 million. No way. Mm-mm. Nah, I doubt that. But Canelo, David Benavidez, I think, who is number one? Is it Floyd and Conor McGregor or Floyd and Manny? Whoever it is, Canelo and David Benavidez is going to break that pay-per-view buys and revenue. Sales and buys and revenue. Canelo Benavidez is going to break it because Canelo is doing the right thing, maximizing the money on that fight. The longer he waits, the more it's going to be worth. The more people are going to want to see it, right? I'm getting it. I ain't paying over no $100 for it. But yeah, if Turkey have it, Turkey been pretty good. Bivol and Benavidez was what, like 59 or something like that? Yeah, I forgot, but it wasn't that much. It wasn't like a Tank pay-per-view. God damn, Tanks is like $100, man. Yeah, but I got to see Tank fight, so him and Lamont Roach coming up. I think Tank gonna knock him out this time. Yeah, I know I said that last time, but hey. What was that guy's name, his new trainer? Is he still a trainer? The guy I had last time? Calvin Ford, head trainer Tank, would have knocked Lamont Roach out last time. That man sent the Tank out there not even knowing what round it was. That's on the trainer, man. How do you do that? That's the last thing you're supposed to tell your fighter when you're taking a stool out of there, what round it is, man. That's the last thing you say to him. 8th round, 3 more to go, 4 more to go, or whatever. How could you let your fighter to go out there and not even know what round it was? I mean, now it's on the fighter too to know the round, but it's on the trainer to make sure he knows it, man. Calvin would never do that. Never. Man. So he need to put Calvin back up there as the head trainer. And get rid of whatever that guy's name was. Yeah. Instead up there in the post-fight interview, he didn't know it was. He thought it was still the 8th round. I wouldn't even admit that if I was the trainer. I would let somebody else tell that. That's your fault, man. That's the last thing you're supposed to tell your fighter when he go on his way back out there. But you can't take nothing away from Lamont Roach. He fought a great fight. The big thick ass beard cushioning that chin, they need to make him shave that off. all that hair hanging down. That's the cushion, man. You know, when you're in spawn, you had your headgear on. That thick hair is like the bottom of that headgear, helping cushion that chin. Make him shave that shit off, man, before the next fight. All around the side, all that big thick hair. No, man, that's not fair. That does help cushion it, don't it? Wouldn't it? If it's thick enough. Yeah. But tomorrow is the life and career of Julio Cesar Chavez, JCC. That's the profile this week. Third profile of the week. And we paid our respects to Big George on Tuesday and Livingstone Bramble yesterday. Hope y'all enjoyed those. And then the regular profile Friday. The life and career of JCC, Julio Cesar Chavez. Probably about the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, Julio. Or either him or Ricardo Lopez. But see, a lot of people don't know Ricardo because he fought at 105. Now, if Ricardo Lopez fought like 126, 130, he would be a household name. Like I told y'all, this man never lost in his life. Never lost in the professional level or amateur level. Never lost. First time he walked in the gym, he begged the guys and the coaches in the gym to let him spar. And they was like, no, this is your first day here. Just get some gloves and work out over there on the side. And he just kept begging the man. And the man put him in there, and the rest is history. Never lost as an amateur or a professional. The great Ricardo Lopez. He had one draw now to Rosendo Alvarez, but he beat him. But Rosendo Alvarez had his number. He only blemish on his record that draw, and Ricardo beat him in a rematch. Rosendo Alvarez did. One judge still gave the fight to Rosendo, so you always got that one fighter, And Rosendo was that man for Ricardo. He gave him a draw and almost beat him in the second fight. One scorecard away from beating him, yeah. Mm-hmm. For the only time in his life, amateur or professional. So there's always that one guy, man, that you had trouble with. And Rosendo Alvarez was it for Ricardo. And you better believe Ricardo didn't have no trilogy with him either. Ricardo said, I beat you, that's it for you. A great Mexican fighter. But, for that 105, a lot of people don't go down that low. But like I said, if he was 130, 126, 130, 122, Ricardo Lopez would be a household name, but still one of the great Mexican fighters. And like I almost had it, Joe Louis is the only man to go undefeated to be champion for an entire decade. But Ricardo was almost, he gave up his titles at the end of like October 99 and went up. If he hadn't vacated, he would have been the second man to be champion for an entire decade. He was champion for the entire decade except for like a couple months. I don't know why he didn't just go ahead but some people that kind of stuff don't matter to them, But that's legacy, man. You're saying Joe Louis and Ricardo Lopez, the only two boxers ever to be champions for an entire decade, but Ricardo vacated with like 2 months to go. Yeah. But he still wouldn't be known by people because he had 105, A lot of people still don't go down into those little lower weight classes, but there's some great fighters down there, man. I go through all of them. From 105 all the way up to heavyweight. Okay, I followed them all. And some of those fights down there, man, you see a lot of action, a lot of movement. And them guys got some pop down. You see some knockouts down there, too. Mm-hmm. Yes, you do. Yeah. See some great knockout rates down there. Mm-hmm. You don't see too many Americans, though, because, mostly Latinos, Asians. I can only think of two Americans that were really great at it, Michael Carbajal and Mark Too Sharp Johnson. There were others, but those two names jump out, as standouts. Michael Carbajal and Mark Too Sharp Johnson was great down at those lower weights, but not too many Americans down there, Appreciate you, Theo. Let me see, we ran a little long today. Let me check out our main man, Just Do Boxing, coming up next. Let me check it out before we go. Don't forget tomorrow, the life and career of JCC. Got some big names that we haven't done yet, man. Like we just did Mike Tyson 2 weeks ago. I couldn't believe that. And haven't done JCC yet. Okay. What was I looking for? Just the box. If I can see his thumbnail on here. There we go, right there. Yeah. Okay, today on Just Do Boxing. Come on, man. Get back up there. Today on Just Do Boxing. Upset alert. Dakota versus Farmer and Norman Jr. versus Cuevas. Tank versus Roach rematch in Jeopardy rumors. Today on Just Do Boxing in like 2 minutes. So let me get out of here. BBO Boxing TV from the Sports Talk Network, 8 p.m. Monday through Fridays. Great podcast. If you ain't subscribed, get over there and subscribe to BBO Boxing TV. The Real Hattie, Kensaw Loved One. Appreciate you, Kensaw Loved One. Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more. Mike Rim, Al Booger, Thomas Hill, Rusty Cage, Ray Patterson, straight out of New Jersey. Mike Masick, and Miss Cass. Appreciate everybody. JCC tomorrow. Okay? So join me then. Finish up this big week of boxing history. Because if it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all that boxing history. Just Do Boxing straight ahead. You got a great show scheduled. This is Cat Sports. Appreciate y'all. Everybody have a great afternoon. And none of those people hit the like button. I'm out.